Hi, Panda here. It's been another fantastic year for games in the year 2024. This year has been the year I finished the most games since I've been doing this, so it has been extra tricky to choose the games that I finished this year and which were my favourite. And as always, we do something a little bit different here. We choose the top 10 games that we finished in the year 2024. They could be old retro games, brand new games, or anything in between. So here's the top 10 games I finished in 2024. Paper Mario Color Splash is another great entry in the Paper Mario RPG series, and this is the Wii U one, so you've got to use the gamepad a little bit more here. And what I like about this one, it's very card based, so you collect different cards that you can use and summon characters or abilities in battle, but you also use the cards to solve puzzles in the environment. I like the humour in this game. It's got some good levels, some settings, and it is quite a lengthy RPG as well. This also shows that the Wii U had loads of great games, and this is another one to add to your Wii U collection. And if you're a fan of RPGs and Paper Mario, I highly recommend it. Castlevania Circle of the Moon, originally for the Game Boy Advance, but I played the Switch version, was part of the Castlevania Advance collection, follows the hero Nathan Graves, which some people might not know about because they've sort of taken this game out of the current timeline for Castlevania. It is debatable, but what you've got here is a fantastic Castlevania game that I really thoroughly enjoyed. Sure, it's got a little bit of grinding in places, but overall there's some great action, some great boss fights, and such a cool castle to explore. I just enjoyed going around the castle, defeating the bosses. It was a good time, and what you have in this game is a special card system where you collect these different magic cards that you can combine to do different magic powers. And this becomes more or less essential later on in the game because some of the bosses are ridiculously difficult in this game and you need to use some very powerful attacks if you want to try and defeat them. But you'll have great fun exploring. You might need a guide just to find out where these cards are if you're not dropping, because they usually drop from different enemies. But you'll have a great time. Music and soundtrack also in this game, fantastic. You start playing this, you're like, yes, I'm in Castlevania mode. Penny's Big Breakaway is a fantastic 3D platforming game. It's just so colourful and lively, and the music is awesome. And you just play as Penny, who has this magic yo-yo that she can either like ride or swing from, like Spider-Man style. And you just make your way through these different colourful levels, trying to avoid these penguins that are trying to hunt you down as well. And it's just great. Loads of various locations. It's fun. It's not too overcomplicated. And it's that pure magic that you get from a 3D platformer that hasn't been like overdone. It's not like, oh, I'm going to try and add something really complicated or make too much. It keeps things simple, but always entertaining. It's always interesting. There's some cool boss fights in here as well, but nothing is particularly too difficult. If you want more challenge, there's a challenge mode, and that's why I really appreciate and think it's a really good design from this game. And it's also designed from some of the developers who made Sonic Mania, which is a fantastic Sonic game. And I like this design that it makes the main game more accessible, but then if you're like someone who's like really like hardcore into like 3D platform challenges, you can just go to challenge mode and that will really test your 3D platforming skills. And overall, yeah, I had a great time with this. It's so much fun. It's so colourful. It's hard to put down. It is hard to put down. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I really got into this and got through in a couple of days. I was like, wow, fantastic. And I still want to go back to find the hidden extras and to do the challenge level. So I highly recommend picking up Penny's Big Breakaway. Still Wakes the Deep seems definitely like an unusual choice for my top 10, as it is a psychological horror, which is not sort of a game I would usually go for. But this is another fantastic game by the Chinese Room, and they've done a great job here of this very cool 1970s Scottish oil rig setting. They've got some genuine Scottish people doing some great accents here, so it doesn't feel fake. And this 1970s appeal to this is just fantastic. Like, just even walking around the oil rig, just seeing the aesthetics and making it feel like you're there in the 70s was great. And I really enjoyed that. Like, I could have just had the game set on the oil rig and nothing else happened, because it was just a really interesting place to walk around and look around. But some creepy things start to happen. I don't want to really ruin the surprises here because it is great. But let's just say you've got to try and survive on this oil rig. And you sort of just go through. It's very linear, like it's pretty obvious where you're going, but there's lots of tension and it's intense. Like, this game is intense. You play it and you're like, I don't want to put it down, it's intense. I just want to try and survive this story on this oil rig. And it's really interesting and it's really well done, even when it's just your character by itself with their monologue and just trying to talk through things and how they're feeling. It's just great. Like, as someone who doesn't really play these psychological horror games, this one is definitely special because I was hooked, and it is definitely special to make it to the top 10 this year. So definitely check out Still Wakes the Deep. Super Mario Bros. Wonder on the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic Mario platform game, but they've sort of reinvented what it means to be a Mario platform here. Sure, some things are the standards. You're running, you're jumping, you're getting your mushroom, but what they've added here is a new setting, this new kingdom, the Flower Kingdom, and also the Wonder Flower, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. What this game is great, having this new kingdom obviously gives them a chance to have a fresh look, and visually, yeah, the environments look a little bit different, the characters have had a bit of a redesign here. Also, there's a large selection of characters here to choose from, with some that have some extra special abilities to help with accessibility, making it like a little bit easier if you find platformers tricky, which is always nice to be able to include more people to be able to play. But what is the big appeal in this game is the Wonder Flower and the Wonder Seeds. So when you're going through a level, you'll pick up something called a Wonder Seed, and it goes, ooh, it just makes a funny noise. I can't recreate the noise, but it makes like this noise, and like the level changes, and then different things might happen. Like, it affects and changes level. Like, warp pipes might start to move, like they come alive, or the piranha plants might start singing. You might see some from the gameplay here, and there's loads of little things like that. Also, you have a thing called badges, and when you unlock badges, you can choose a badge to wear for that level. So you can have a badge that gives you like an extra high jump, or there's like loads. There's so many I couldn't even start to describe them, and they give you extra special abilities here. And yeah, as always, like I've been saying about these type of games before, what they do really good here is that, yeah, at a certain skill level you can get through all the levels, but there's plenty of like extra hidden levels hidden off that give you extra more challenge. And also you could probably do the levels without attaching a badge to yourself if you want that extra challenge. So you really can change the challenge of this game, but it makes it more accessible that lots more people can play it, and also you can play it in co-op as well, so that's always good fun. But yeah, so check out Super Mario Bros. Wonder for the Nintendo Switch. It is a fantastic, joyful and colourful, bright, it's fun. It's fun. You can't not play this and feel happy. So it's definitely worthy of the top 10 list. Under the Waves is this emotional story-based game where you play as Stan, who's suffering from grief and suffering from losing someone, but I don't want to get too much into the story about what happened, because it sort of tells you as you go along, as you do these sort of maintenance jobs and these underwater power plants. So you kind of explore here, but there's like some ruins as well, and it's just very cool to explore this underwater world that doesn't focus on combat. You can either just like swim around or go on your little submarine. There's some light puzzles to solve as well, but it's more about exploring and sort of journeying and doing these jobs, even if it's just going to repair something, but getting told this story as you go along and about him dealing with his emotions. It's just really well done. It's really hard to sort of explain, but it's definitely worth experiencing. Pikmin 4 is another fantastic game in the Pikmin series by Nintendo. This is an awesome real-time strategy game, and Nintendo's keeps on improving Pikmin. It's always a joy and a blast to play Pikmin, and this time you've got this sort of dog-like creature that helps you called Ochi. He's just adorable and amazing, so he can help you get round quicker, and he can do other things, pull bigger items. There's even more types of Pikmin here. Dungeons have made a comeback, so you can go into a dungeon and explore different levels of dungeon and solve puzzles. The dungeons are definitely more of the puzzle section of this game, and it's also a nighttime mode where it's sort of like a tower defense mode, and you've got to defend these, I don't know how to describe it, they look like anthills. You just defend them to get a certain type of Pikmin, but I don't want to give you too many spoilers here, but there's definitely some intrigue. I like all the crew members. They're a right interesting bunch of characters, and it's sort of interesting to go through the story and the locations. There's not as many locations as previous Pikmin games, but I think having these dungeons has really helped add to that, because each area is quite large and there's quite a few dungeons to each area as well, and it's just a blast to explore. Plus there's lots of post-game content to enjoy as well, so you get a lot for your money here, and it's just a great adventure. Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, is a remaster of Final Fantasy XII that originally came out on the PlayStation 2. This is a fantastic Final Fantasy game. Now, I haven't finished many Final Fantasy games, but this one, I played it all the way through the end. It is great, and I think the small changes Square Enix made in this remaster really do show. A, it looks beautiful, obviously made it full widescreen, 1080p, it looks fantastic, but it plays really smoothly, the characters are great. The other changes they made was to update the job system. I haven't played the original Final Fantasy XII, so I don't know quite the difference, but I heard there's quite a lot more you can do with the job system this time, so each character can be a different class or different role. I like the combat system. That's also been improved by you can speed it up 2 or 4 times faster, which is really helpful and gets rid of the really grindy bits of the game. And I think that made a big difference to me. I think if it wasn't for that, I might have not finished that, because this really helps cut down on the time you waste trying to grind up your levels, especially near the end of the game. But I love the characters here, the setting. This is just a very grand adventure. And the combat system is great because you can just set your characters to do certain attacks, but there's lots of little tweaks you make, like, oh, if it's below 50% health, or if the enemy has less than 50%, like, do this attack. But you can also just pause the combat anytime and go old school Final Fantasy, go, right, I want you over there to do some lightning attack or some wind attack, and it's just great. And I was really hooked. I like the locations, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. I played for this in the summer, and I was like, wow, I was hooked, and I got through it, and this is definitely a Final Fantasy game I recommend playing. Citizen Sleeper is another game that's not usually the type of game I play. Very different. This is very story-based, sort of not text adventure. It's hard to describe. It's technically a dice game, but there's lots of story and lots of characters. You get lovely, like what I call graphic novel style character portraits, and you're basically this robot who used to have like a person's mind put into this robot body, and you're on this huge space station, and you kind of just go around and navigate around the space station, and you don't actually move your character, you move the space station, and you choose like different locations, and there might be like an activity to do there, but basically all the activities come down to you get so many dice each day, and you've got to decide, like, right, if I've got a 6. If I put 6 down, I can definitely get the rewards from this activity. But if I've got a 1 or 2, it might be a little bit risky. It might cause me some health damage or some body damage. So you have to really decide. But I was hooked. Not only is the dice game section of it's good, but it's the characters. And there's lots of little sub-stories going on as well. Like, you get your main story, but you got like what I call the side quests. And they're as interesting as the main story. And you're just like hooked. But it's like there's sort of this race against time, not like actual time, but like time of days. Like, oh, there might be like so many sleep cycles before this other event happens. You got to really carefully choose what you want to do with your dice. But it's the characters that make this game. You meet so many interesting characters. It's just amazing. And when I played through all of this and all 3 of the DLC as well, I'm bundling this all together. The 3 episode expansions that came after the main story, also fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to number 2. And this just proves if you make a really good game and it's really interesting, even if it's a genre of game that you don't usually play, it still shows that you can enjoy it. You don't have to stick to the same genres. You don't always have to be like, oh, I'm just a person that plays adventure games or first person shooters. This game, and this year especially, has shown me that occasionally try a game that's not in your genre, because you'll be surprised, because some of the games on this top 10 list so far have been games that I don't usually play, and this was a big surprise for me, and that's why it's so high on my list, because this game is fantastic. Also, the soundtrack and the ambience noise, wow, absolutely amazing. So roll on number 2. Jusant is amazing, breathtaking game, and this is why it's so high on our list this year, because it's just a beautiful adventure game, sort of story based. It's hard to really describe. So basically you just play as this person who has a small creature that follows them, and they're in this mysterious world. There's this huge sort of mountain cliff rock that obviously people used to live there, and that's why I like about this game, because it has like all these places where people used to live, but it's all abandoned, and what used to be the ocean is completely dried up. So that's the mystery, like, I wonder what happened here. And as you climb and explore this huge cliff, you come across like documents and wall drawings, and sort of like the environment tells the story, and you just kind of explore. You just sort of like, you keep heading up higher. And what is great about this, not only does this game look absolutely beautiful, it sounds amazing. The climbing is fantastic in this. you really feel it, like you're deciding like, right, where am I going here? There's some like, it's kind of like puzzly in a way, like figuring out how do I get up here? Where's the best place to anchor down and climb up? And as high you get up, the more mysterious, and there's just always something pushing you forward, like I want to explore more. But even when you get to like a little bit of a town ruin, a little village ruin, you kind of just want to go around because like you're looking at objects and what used to be shops and maybe like a cafe, and no one's there, and it's just like, it's sort of eerie, but in a beautiful eerie way. It's really hard to explain, and it's just, this game is breathtaking, and I really want to play it again because it's just amazing. And it's just one of those experiences this year I was going, wow. And it just, this once again just shows you like, it doesn't have to be like a first person shooter or a game that's heavy in combat. Some of these games that avoid having any combat or having even any enemies, and it's just about exploring a space and being told a story, but there's still that bit of a challenge with like the puzzle of doing the rock climbing. Just shows you that you can do different things in games and still have an amazing game, and this game is just one of those games that will stay with me. It's just such a fantastic experience, and I highly recommend it, so go and get Jusant. This is a fantastic indie game that's my favourite game of 2024 that I finished. Absolutely beautiful, so go and pick it up, it's definitely worth it. And there you go, that's my top 10 games that I finished in 2024. I want to say a big thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and you can help support us through Patreon, Ko-fi or Twitch subscriptions. All the links in the description below, and thank you to the people who have helped support the channel, and we'll see you next time. And go check out some of those games, and also on the screen right now I'll show you some of my honorable mentions, some games that didn't quite make my top 10, but like I said, this year was really difficult, so some of these were very close to getting on the top 10 list. And have a good year, and here's hoping for some fantastic games in 2025. Bye.